Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. Today's game is going to be a little bit of a weird one, but I think Red Dragon was recently on sale, maybe this past weekend, and there were a lot of newer players in the game. I certainly saw it in public lobbies, and, well, it's kind of made me think that maybe another video like this is sort of warranted. So if you are one of the people who picked it up on sale and are relatively new, or if you find yourself struggling, particularly in public lobbies against most people, this game we're going to be watching mostly from my opponent's perspective, as he was, I think, a newer player, and there are some things here that he did that I feel are worth discussing. So if you're a fan of that sort of thing, or if you figure this helps you out even just a little bit, don't hesitate to leave a like, share, subscribe, and all that YouTuber nonsense I always have to ask for. And let's take a look into his deployment. So first off, 1v1 on Mud Pit, and 1, 2, 3 command vehicles. Now, you might think, when you're newer into the game, that this is a really good idea, because the name of the game is Conquest, after all, that's the mode that we're playing, and you want to be able to get that ticking first. There are times where that's appropriate, but let's think about this. This is about, what, 335 points worth of command vehicles, maybe even a little bit more. I don't quite remember how expensive the Strip BV90 is. I think it's about 130 points, though, so yeah, even more than that, frankly. 350, that's a third of your opener, and it's not really going forward on the board. And then, in addition to that, we have everything in the air. So, all the infantry that's in this entire game is in the air. The only things on the ground, well, I guess there's a single scout infantryman, and then Rover RBS 90. This is in stark contrast to my own opening, where we have a single scout Hera 2, and then everything in a big column here. Now, I'm playing an Entente armor deck, and that's why I'm sort of all grouped up, so I'm trying to bull right through the middle in Delta, and, I mean, well, I was expecting something that wasn't really there, but let's take a look at this. Once you get there, what are you going to do? You don't really have fire support on the ground, you don't really have main heavy tanks, you're relying on ATGMs here, and that's fine if they work, but some smoke micro and things like that will deny those more effectively than you might think, and you only have limited ammunition in the first place. So I come in with a helicopter hunter that immediately kills a Lynx and some Jaeger 90. Now your scouting is gone, and because it was just reliant on that, it's going to be hard to really, well, get a lot of good vision here. There's a couple units you can see. There's Jaeger 90 right here with decent spotting, but I mean, it's just a very fragile and positional opener. So, I mean, I've lost to some amazing players doing things with helicopters at the start, but even they had some forces on the ground and more than just an RBS 90. So I do lose my Sava, and that, well, my Hera rather, and then I actually think I lose the T-55A as well. I had a couple of light forces over here, but this is sort of what I mean. So there's Jaeger 90, there's RBS 56, there's 2 Lynxes, and if we take a look at what's going on this side, I have 2 Zalaznichi, and that's basically it. I called in a Sava on this side because I saw the helicopters, and I thought it might be a helicopter rusher on this side. This single Sava can fend off both of these, and the Jaeger 90 crossing open ground will get roadblocked by Zalaznichi, and will give me time to respond. In which case, all I've lost really here are militiamen. I'm calling out on the T-55A because this thing will wreck them on the open ground, provided, of course, the RBS 56 doesn't get it a good shot. And then, over the center of the board, I mean, I got a little lucky there. I was kind of sitting there going, oh, what the heck's going on? But returning to face and then backing up, so that should be fine. But this town in the center controls this map. That's part of why there are such big knockdown, drag-out fights over it in most games. I mean, that's why I brought an armored deck here. I wanted a Vhor with as high veterancy as I could get to knock out my opponent's tank, the M84AN, also doing some good work there. And yeah, I'm suffering +2, but Delta is largely uncontested. I have some infantry that'll be going in to contest Alpha, and unlike my opponents with FSK and some RBS 56, I actually have support on the ground. BVP M80As are really wonderful at killing infantry. The OAT 810s will actually do a bit more work than you might think, and are definitely a good distraction. I mean, 5 points you get, 10 strength, and some armor, if not really a ton. And it's just a question of, if you're the blue player here, what do you do? Right, so he's bringing out a 1A5 NO2, but that cannot compete with the V4, especially if I do have Recon out here, and I do, especially if I have a Conquerors team out here, and I do, and it's gonna lose the tank-to-tank battle. And then on this side, this is just a mechanized grind, because each one of these UH-1Bs, minimum 15 points, the 3C, yeah, 15 points, but my transports are 5 points, and I'm eventually going to grind you down with sheer numbers, and I have the time to do it. So I've capped Charlie at this point. That +2 is now a +1. As if I get the push out here, that's down to 0, and if I counter cap in, well, if I cap in Delta, that's 0 anyway. And then, if you look at this, if I was to get some infantry here and push out of this forest, there's not really much that's stopping me. The 1A5 NO2 won't be able to do it on his own. You don't have the saturation that you would need to really put up a fight there. And then over on this side, this is going to become a quick points drain. So take a look. I have some mortars that are firing in, trying to knock out the FSK. The BVP's firing at range against RBS. Yeah, we might take a loss or two, but, I mean, that's a killed group of RBS, which is very expensive. The mortars are stunning the FSK, allowing my Mechanizovana to do decently well, 10 points apiece as opposed to 35. So, if I can get a double group here and put a pounding on one of those FSK, I come out ahead, even if I do lose these infantry. And I know where I'm fighting over, and now that everything is being called in, reinforcements and helicopters as well, he has to watch out for my Sava, which is right about here. It's going to be making a trip over on this side relatively shortly, and if I inch forward a little bit more, that reinforcing lane becomes narrower and narrower because everything that would be going in the air right here directly will get shot down. I mean, the BVPs are shooting some things down. I'm actually nearly running out of ammunition with the BVP, which is a bit of a rare sight. And yeah, I've lost most of my infantry, but more are already on their way. And I have some fire support with the Vidra 2s, I have some chaff with the 810s, I have more Vidra 2s back there, and this has already been probably net points positive for me, even though it was sort of not really what I expected to face. So, I don't know, what I'm trying to say is, particularly if you're newer at the game, don't over-specialize. Even a generic deck can be over-specialized, and this one very much is. There's wonderful infantry being brought out here. Scandinavia has some great options, but it also has a lot of great options that are on the ground that will keep you from sort of ending up having to avoid the whole center of the map because you don't have anything here to support yourself. That's a task. It's really something. It's a tax that you can't afford to pay. Is what I'm trying to say here. Because you end up limiting yourself and your options on the field. So, we did actually have a couple of series of unfortunate events here. Some of these have, or at least will, be going up in shorts, I think, relatively soon, if they haven't already. L17K coming around, let's take a look at this from a yeah, so he just got vision on it, and it's coming in. The RBS 90 here aren't going to be enough to slow him down, just because of time over target, and his FSK get completely wrecked, so this wouldn't have happened if they were on the ground. I wouldn't have been able to know that I could get my L17K out there. The air-to-air missile wouldn't have damaged the FSK so much. Yeah, I mean, you could get hit by an ATGM, but even then it's going to be a little bit less punishing if you have decent support in this section of forest. Zones me out a little bit, bring the reinforcements up this side, should be fine. And then because these RBS are firing, I'm actually doing this on purpose. 810 going in, ducks between the headgrows and dodges that single volley. And then my mortars are going to be online here in just a second. So let's take a look. One mortar. And one hit, one kill. Second hit, this, I actually couldn't believe it. It was just, I mean, that sucks. That really sucks. 5 HE mortars, 5 strength infantry teams, and you can see, I mean, the initial speed here really hasn't resulted in much longevity. I mean, it's the same trade-off that Moto decks make, but this was a generic deck. As a public lobby, it wasn't ranked. So I knew he was bringing base Scandi, and it wasn't the force I expected at all, probably for a reason. Alright, well that's going to be all we've got for you guys today. I don't think we really need to go into the kills and losses here, but just, if you're new, there are lots of people on my Discord as well as also on Blitzwars Discord and Stealth as well, who'll be happy to take a look at your decks, and I mean the Reddit's good for that as well, so just make sure you have some flexibility, and if you don't know, ask. There are lots of people who are willing and able to help, because the more players we have happy and playing the game, the better the community, and the longer we can enjoy it.